All right. So, hello and welcome to the very first episode of a podcast remastered. So who we are. My name is JS90, and this is my co-host ZeesTwitchin. Say hello.
How's it going?
So some of you guys might remember I had a podcast initially on my YouTube channel, and I also streamed it on Twitch. It was called Get Wrecked Podcast. This was like kind of an experimental thing that we did, where pretty much we wanted to talk about PSX. I think it was 2016 PSX we were talking about.
Gosh, yeah, we talked about a lot of things.
Yeah, we talked about that, PlayStation games we're looking forward to, Naughty Dog. I think we covered a bunch of topics there, but so what we usually do is we usually like to discuss different gaming topics, particularly PlayStation related, but also other stuff as well. And we it's just an idea that I had before that I wanted to see if we could turn that into a podcast, because I think we have some interesting discussions about the gaming industry and various games that we play. So yeah, that first episode of the Get Wrecked podcast, that was a kind of an experimental thing. Just wanted to see if it worked, and it definitely did. And that was quite a while ago. I think I streamed that when I had about 30 followers, I think. This was nearly a year ago, and now we're at 818. So it's been quite a while. So right now, we gave the podcast a new look. Hope you guys like that image over there. We're doing all of this through PC now. The first episode, we just did that while playing a round of Uncharted co-op. So, giving it a more of a professional look and all. So yeah. Let's get started then. First thing I wanted to do before we get into the major topics. And by the way, the major topics for this episode will be microtransactions and expectations of gamers.
Right.
So before that, I want to start by we'll have ZeesTwitchin over here. Tell us, what games have you been playing?
As of lately, I've been playing a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn. The complete edition just came out. Well, not just came out. Probably came out around early December. I can't remember the date, but just first time playing through the game. Finished it not too long ago, and just currently playing the Frozen Wilds expansion. It's a great game. I can see why a lot of PlayStation gamers have been really raving about it. As far as going as to saying that Aloy is the next best PlayStation mascot. It's crazy. But
really,
gameplay, everything. Oh yeah, everything about the gameplay, from gameplay perspective, Horizon Zero Dawn just nails it. The mechanics are so great. Game controls swiftly and smoothly. Story is not Christopher Nolan style. It's not deep, but it's not bad. I'd say it's average. Something to get crazed over. But yeah, overall an amazing experience. Highly recommend it if you have a PS4. And yeah, Jay, what about you?
So I just wanted to ask, so you think it's the characters that are that really stand out more than the overall story? Is that what you're saying?
I think the story could have presented itself a lot better. If anything, yeah, you know what, the characters do actually stand out quite a lot. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of the characters, mainly the main character. I find that the supporting characters don't get enough of the spotlight. But it's all about the main character, which is, it's not a bad thing. But at the end of the day, as long as the gameplay is good with this game, and the gameplay is fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, and let's just say hi to AJ and JD. They're both here. JD says, "Is this episode 2 have aged several years since the last one?" Yeah, it's been a while, man. I mean, the last episode was last February, so it's nearly a year later, and we're trying to make this a little more professional this time. The first one was experimental, as I was mentioning in the intro. But yeah, so you've mainly been playing Horizon. As for me, I've okay, on PS4, I've mainly been playing GTA,
Mm,
GTA 5 that is.
yeah.
Because it was I think it was, when was it, December 12th or something like that. The Doomsday Heist update released, and that like was just one of the best updates the game ever had. They added new heists, and
Yeah.
they were bigger and better than anything we'd ever seen in the game before. It was really well done. That's been taking up a lot of my time. Yeah, I mean that's definitely something I put in the top three updates I think the game has gone
Mm,
to date. So that's been a lot of fun. And aside from PS4, I've recently gone into PC gaming. So I've been
nice.
playing, some stuff here and there on PC. A little bit of Assassin's Creed Black Flag multiplayer that was
Mm,
given away by Ubisoft for the 10th anniversary of Assassin's Creed. So
nice.
that was a free game. I also got Watch Dogs for free. I haven't tried it yet. Got the GTA 5 PC version on a Steam sale for the winter Steam sale. Um, yeah, so I've been playing that a bit. Overall, haven't had too much time for gaming because of work recently. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just whenever I get the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's pretty much what we've been playing, and let's get into the first topic. So the first topic we have is all about microtransactions. This is a really, really hot topic
Yeah.
in the recent months and everything, especially with EA and Star Wars Battlefront 2,
Yeah.
because they were really under fire over the microtransactions. You wanna explain what that situation was about?
Yeah, so Battlefront 2, I think it
Mm.
was Battlefront 2. Yeah, Battlefront 2 came
Yeah.
out, it dropped, and players are basically complaining about the forced microtransaction system.
Mm.
And what enraged the community the most was EA's response, in which they basically said, I think this says something along the lines of, well, if you don't want, I mean, if it, like it's available to players if they don't have the time to invest into playing the game, so they just want to unlock this stuff right away, then go ahead and like make these purchases. But and in my opinion, of course, that doesn't justify the fact that you're forcing microtransactions on players.
Mm. Yeah, that response that they had, I think they responded on Reddit, and that became the most
Yeah.
downvoted comment of all time on
Yeah.
Reddit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't know, it was like negative 47,000 or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't quite remember. Oh wait, hold on, I have it here. More than hold on. Okay, as of the writing of this article, it's been downvoted 678,000 times.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah. Oh
That's
man.
crazy.
Oh, hang on. JD said I'm
Yeah.
I'm kind of louder than him. Hang on. We'll adjust the volume a little bit.
Okay. Maybe I'm not really
I
sitting
I
close to the microphone, but I move closer.
okay. I increased it a little bit. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry. Where were we at?
We were just talking about EA and the microtransactions,
Oh,
and
okay.
like if like, did you have something else to add?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, personally, I really don't mind microtransactions. Like, the only time I've ever used microtransactions is back in Uncharted 3. I think
Uncharted 3.
I don't
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember what I bought. But that was the only time that I used microtransactions for a couple of things. Um, in recent memory, I don't know if this really counts as a microtransaction, but I bought the battle pass for Fortnite, which basically goes for like the next, I think it goes for like 70 days, 70, 90 days or something like that. I'm
Mm.
not too sure. But then like by the time the next season rolls around, like they have different varieties of items for you to unlock, so it changes like every season.
Mm.
So I picked that up for like $10, I believe. Um, but I just don't find it acceptable when you have games that kind of force, like they force that grind system on you to make you say, okay, you know what, this is getting a little too much for me. I'm gonna buy this microtransaction, or
Mm.
I'm gonna buy this like elite loot chest, if you will, and
Yeah.
get the stuff that I need to play for.
See, the thing is, I feel like there's a right way to do it and then a wrong way to do it. And
Yeah.
it seems like so many different gaming companies are going the wrong way of doing it. Now,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, the first thing we need to set straight is that like this focus on microtransaction in general is okay for a free to play game. Okay?
Yes.
Because that's their
Definitely.
only revenue stream, right? From
Hmm.
that game because it's free to play. That's the only way they're going to make money, which, people are quite a bit more understanding for a free to play game. So, like Fortnite is free to play. So,
Right.
for something like that, it's cool. But um, we have like so many of these like AAA big budget games, which you're paying like if you're in the U.S. you're paying $60. If you're here in Canada, $80, and elsewhere it's even more, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because I think in the UK they're paying like what, like £60, €60 for their games, and then
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like you're paying so much for it, and then they're treating it like it's a free to play model, and
Yeah.
just way too many games are going into that. And like there's a few that we definitely want to discuss. So aside from EA and Battlefront, another game that was talked about a lot in terms of its microtransactions was Middle Earth: Shadow of War.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have,
yeah.
yeah, I haven't played this game, and I haven't played the first one either. So maybe you could tell me a bit about that. What's that all about?
Man, so just how we had just previously said, like what I previously said about forcing microtransactions on players, and that's exactly the same case in Middle Earth Shadow of War. I love the first one. Shadow of War is a phenomenal game. I'd recommend it to anybody who's into open world actiony type games with a really unique game mechanics and such. But Middle Earth Shadow of War was just a mess in my opinion because I couldn't wait to finish up with the game and then drop it because the
Mm,
game itself was an overly unnecessarily grind where
yeah.
you because the only way to really gain XP is not only doing missions but like killing like major like orc captains and such because like the
Mm,
game has its like unique system called the nemesis system in which like you kind of like make personal battles with orcs and like they go up the ranks and you can choose to either help them up the ranks or like take orcs down and prevent them from moving on up. It's a really intricate, really well done, well programmed system. But with Middle Earth Shadow of War, like the thing is like there isn't the only thing to do to get XP is to kill monsters, is to kill orcs, and like you have other missions like challenges that you don't get XP for. You just get skill points, which is not bad, but I mean,
mm,
it just feels. There has never been a time in my life where I had to take a break from a game. I mean, there's something like taking a break from playing,
mm,
but never in my life have I ever felt that I needed to take a break from playing a game because that's why I want to play a game, right? Like I just want to like just put my time into it, have fun. But Middle Earth, it didn't do that for me.
mm. So it's solely because of the microtransactions you felt that way?
Exactly, yeah. And
Mm,
like just to give you an example of like how the microtransaction system is incorporated and like what you can use to buy that stuff.
mhm,
So say like there's a chapter in the game, I don't want to spoil it specifically. There's a chapter in the game, the final chapter where you basically have to like defend yourself from a swarm of orc soldiers and fleets and such.
mhm.
And if you don't have the proper army, and higher enough like leveled orcs,
Yeah.
like they're gonna like dominate you. And
Mm,
if they do dominate you, you have to rebuild your army again. But leveling up takes so much time. And also microtransactions, you can also use them to buy better skills for your orcs and stronger orcs. But here's the catch though, like you have to level up because you can't get orcs that surpass your level. So if you
mm.
want a level 50 orc,
You have to
and you're
be
only
level
level
50.
45. Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, and if you need a level 50 orc, you got to keep grinding until you reach level 50. And then, of course, they have options like XP boosts in which you could purchase. And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah, I get a headache talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like that's where you can see where it goes wrong, where it's just they're intentionally frustrating the player to the point where
Yeah,
the player is just gonna be like, okay, screw this, let me just buy like a booster pack or whatever microtransaction it
yeah,
is, right?
exactly, exactly.
And hey, Lismar, how's it going? This is a podcast that we are doing.
Hey,
Uh,
Lismar.
um, okay, we have a question from JD. He said, "Do you think Naughty Dog does microtransactions right or wrong?" Um, I don't think they do it right, and I feel like they've progressively gotten worse. That was gonna be the next game that we were gonna talk about, which is Uncharted 4's microtransactions. Um, okay, so the thing is, um, see, with Uncharted 4, the thing is primarily the um, the stuff that you can get out of microtransactions is mostly cosmetic stuff, right? So these are
Mm,
skins, hats, masks, characters, stuff like that. But there are a selection of weapons and boosters and mysticals that you can get
yeah.
from the what's it called, they have a gameplay chest. So that's another thing. Uncharted 4, their whole microtransaction system revolves around relics that are used to open these. Well, I mean, they're pretty much loot boxes, right? What do they call
Right.
them? They call them chests in Uncharted.
Yeah.
But either way, it's the same concept. You have a random chance of getting something. It might not be what you want. Um, but yeah, if you earn enough relics, you can open it. Now, the thing is, right? Initially, when they mentioned this system, right, it didn't sound too bad, right?
Yeah.
Because to begin with, they said there will be no duplicate items, which is great, right? Because that's
Mm,
something that's, when it comes to a lot of games with loot boxes, that's, a big frustration for players,
yeah. Oh yeah.
getting duplicate items. So Naughty Dog said no duplicate items. Okay, sounds good. And as a result of this, because they're doing this whole loot box Uncharted point system, all of the maps and updates for Uncharted 4 were made free, which is another great thing, right?
Mm,
Because before, for all of Naughty Dog's multiplayers, they always did two major map pack updates, right? So you got four maps in each update, and you had to pay for them. They were, I think, how much were they? Like $10, $15, something like that.
I couldn't tell you.
I can't remember. It's been a while, but yeah, Uncharted 2 was like
Yeah.
this. Uncharted 3 was like this. The Last of Us was like this, right?
Mm,
And then they shifted from that model to Uncharted 4 because they said the reason was, they didn't want to split the player base, right? They wanted everybody to always have the same maps, which is something that I was always for. Because the problem is, if you played Uncharted 2 and 3 multiplayer, if you enable DLC and go into matchmaking, it takes forever. You're never
right.
gonna find anything, right? Because like most
Yeah.
people don't have the DLC, right? And when
Right.
you're searching for DLC maps, it just is frustrating looking for matchmaking, right? Even for Uncharted 3, they made the map packs free, right? But
Mm,
then, even aside from that, like even though it was free, a lot of people haven't downloaded it, right? So you're still not gonna find a whole lot of matches, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So like that was always a problem in their previous games, and the same thing goes for Last of Us. Last of Us had a separate matchmaking for DLC maps, and that always took forever to find matches. And this was even back on the PS3 when the game was still like relatively new,
Oh, I
right?
see.
Yeah. So matchmaking was always a problem, and like even Naughty Dog's games, they've always had a small like player pool as well, right? But yeah, so like this was it was always still a problem, and it was frustrating for players in terms of matchmaking. So Uncharted
Mm,
4 initially was you know going to solve this, right?
yeah.
And it sounded fair that if the multiplayer updates are going to be free, okay, fine, you can have microtransactions, right? And initially it sounded like it was fair. And it was fair. That is until the very first update for Uncharted 4 multiplayer. What was it called, man? I don't remember the name of the update, but it's the one where the Sunken Ruins map was released with the Arrowhead, P90, those guns, and a
Oh yeah,
whole
yeah.
bunch of pirate themed stuff, right? So you had a whole bunch
Right.
of pirate skins, everything like that. Now, you know, like first off, right? Um, in terms of the relic system for Uncharted, you barely gain any relics from actually playing the game. Like from
Yeah.
winning matches, losing matches, all that stuff, like you barely get anything, right?
Mhm.
All of the, you know, the relics you accumulate in the game are going to come from the daily challenges that you do, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of my problems that I've always had with Uncharted when it comes to their microtransactions, because those daily challenges, once you're done them, right, there's no other way to keep getting relics, right? Like you're not properly rewarded for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, like once that first DLC came out, right, they had three new chests. So they had a DLC chest which cost 2,000 relics to open. They had a DLC premium chest which costed 3,000, and then the gameplay chest which costed 3,000 relics, right? And you know, on average, you're gonna earn, let's say, maybe like 500 relics, including the daily challenges and all the matches that you play, right?
Right.
So you know, like that's about how much you're gonna earn, right? And you're looking at these, like you know, these new chests. They're gonna take forever to open. Like you gotta play like maybe a good 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
right, before you can open one. And keep in mind, these usually contain one item, right? So that's like one skin, one you know, like hat or something like that. The premium skins, you only got one of them. The gameplay items, you only got one of them as well, right?
Yeah.
So this was such a slow grind, and this was RNG based, right? So you could want, I don't know, say, Pirate Drake, right? But you like, you know, you don't know if you're gonna get it, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep gambling with that loot chest, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know, it's like, the thing is, right? Like a lot of people express their frustration with it, right? Like they said that, and this was especially true for the DLC chest that cost 2,000 relics, because it's like you know, people were complaining like they're playing like, you know what, 3 or 4 days to open a chest to get like a mask, right? And it was frustrating because the more you play the game, it doesn't matter. It only matters from the daily challenges, right? Because you're only gonna make,
Right.
like, you could play 10 matches, right? And you're gonna get 100 relics out of that, which is nothing, right? And ten
That's
matches
true.
is a lot. 10 matches, you know, is gonna take you a few hours, maybe like a couple hours, because
Mhm.
Uncharted matchmaking is also really slow. So you know, like a lot of people complained about this, right? And then they said, okay, we're gonna change it, right? So they changed that DLC chest to 300 relics, which sounds
Mhm.
great, right? It sounds great, and they also decided that they're going to add colors for the skins, which is something that was highly requested, because that's, you know, a feature that was in Uncharted 3, right? Like a lot of people liked, you know, putting different, you know, colors on the different skins. It just gave it a whole new look, made it look like a new skin and everything, right? So
Right.
you know, it was something that they added to Uncharted 4. But here's where they did it. Here's where they wanted to screw you over. They made it so that they added 25 new colors, right?
Right.
Now, to get a color for a particular skin, you have to unlock that color for that skin. Okay? So
Uh,
if you like, let's say there's like a, I don't know, uh, okay, one of the colors is called smoke, right? So
right.
it's like a black and gray thing. It's something that a lot of people liked, right? So that particular color, right? If you wanted that on Drake, you had to get, let's say, a heist smoke Drake, right? If you got smoke on heist Drake, doesn't mean you can use it on pirate Drake, right? So you had to get it for each particular skin. And the thing is,
Oh, I
that
see.
led to so many different combinations, because each character had a good like 10 to 12 skins, right?
Yeah.
And it's just going to take you forever. And they just bloated that chest with so many different colors, right? And you're never going to get anything that you want from it unless you purchase the Uncharted points, which is their
Right.
microtransactions, right? So they did that in a way to intentionally frustrate the player. And then yeah, like that's always an issue.
Like, yeah, now that you mentioned that, like Jayotic says, they should have had you unlock just the colors. So, like, you unlock moss, you get moss for every
Yeah,
skin.
that would have been perfect. Like,
Yeah.
because there's only 25 colors, right?
Right.
And that's, even if it only gave you one color per chest opening, you have to open the chest 25 times. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that would have been perfect. Like if you unlock a color, like think about how many different customization combinations you get. Like JD said, you get moss. Moss is a cool color. It's like black and green, right? So you can make so many different like cool looking combinations for that for any of the different skins you have unlocked, right? So it's like the thing is like they added what players wanted, but they did it in the wrong way. They did it to intentionally frustrate the player
Yeah.
because they bloated the chest, and that chest is all RNG based, right? And they did it so that it frustrates you to go buy Uncharted points to get what you specifically want, right? Like one of the examples is after the Lost Legacy came out, right? They added I think like 5 or 6 new skins, for Nadine and Chloe, for Asaf the villain, and a couple of other characters. Won't spoil it because it's gonna spoil Lost Legacy, but these skins were added, but you're never gonna get them because it's in that 2000 relic chest, right?
Right.
Like, there's just no way you're gonna get them. I tried. You know what it was, right? I spent I think 9,000 relics or something like that. Didn't get it, so I don't care. Like by the time you get it, it's gonna be at the point where you don't care anymore, right? I think the last time I played, I got a couple of biker skins, which were cool, but they were added last December, so I don't care about them anymore, right? So it's like I lost interest in the whole chest thing, right? In the whole opening the chest and getting new stuff from Uncharted, right? So it's like that's one of the things that really killed the game for me, right?
Right.
It's just they did it in such a wrong way,
Now, with if you don't mind me saying, with that being said, I was reading a couple of the comments from the chat. Geotic again says, Overwatch is a good system. You get a free loot box every time you level up. Duplicates gives you in-game gold so you can purchase something you actually want with said gold. Do you think Uncharted 4 would have done right by the players if they incorporated a system like that?
I think so because the thing is, right, Uncharted, you did get a few box openings, like for hero weapons and all that stuff. You got free box openings, but I think it was like every 10 levels or something like that. And once you're maxed out in level, you don't get anything anymore, right?
Right.
So because I have heard that people have said that Overwatch does it really well, right? So I mean, that something similar to that, man. It's like just I feel like you have to respect the player's time, right? Like whatever time the player puts into the game, they should be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And Naughty Dog games currently do not do that well, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, like Uncharted 3, there wasn't too much, of like people weren't having too many issues with the whole with those microtransactions. Those were like for like the skins and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
I feel like the thing is, like, even for some of those, because you could purchase skins for those, the ones that you could unlock in the game as well. But I mean, like, to unlock that, and for that, that included weapons as well, right? So if you wanted like a hero variant of a weapon or something like that, you could buy it. But to unlock it in the game, you have to collect the appropriate treasure sets, right?
Right.
And that's again something RNG based. You don't always get a treasure. You could get a treasure that's a duplicate, that kind of stuff, right? But it wasn't as much of an issue as Uncharted 4 was, right? Because I feel like Uncharted 4, they really pushed it to the point where they're like, it's just there to frustrate the player, right? And
Yeah.
something like that, I feel like is that done in a wrong way. And I did see someone mention something about Destiny and Destiny 2
Yeah. Yeah.
in the thing. Sorry, in the chat. Um, we'll cover Destiny 2, but a bit later on.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
part of this second major topic that we have because
Right.
there's a bit more to talk about Destiny 2 in there, but we'll cover the microtransaction stuff there
Yeah.
too. Second topic is going to be gamers' expectations, by the way. But there's one more thing I want to talk about in the first topic, and that
Hmm.
is GTA Online.
Right. Because
Right?
even Scorpion AJ, he asked like, how do you feel like Rockstar's approach on it? Like, how do you feel that they what they're doing? Like, I have no idea about GTA Online. I don't play GTA
Mhm.
Online, but yeah, like, how is there microtransactions incorporated in that game?
Yes, because GTA Online is built entirely around a money economy, right? So
Mm.
it depends how much money you have. That's what dictates what things you can buy, what kind of content you can access, um, what type of weapons you can have, what type of mods you can have on your cars. It's stuff that directly affects gameplay, and it's all built around this money economy. And here's the thing, right? A lot when it comes to a lot of major games, right? Gamers are just tearing apart EA, Activision, like all these publishers. They're just tearing them apart for all these like AAA games.
Right.
Not Rockstar though.
uh,
People like you notice that, right? Like Rockstar's entire game has been built completely around microtransactions, right? But
yeah.
why do they get a pass, right? Now the thing is, I have like mixed feelings about this, right? Because I feel like in certain situations, I feel like they've taken it way too far. Like that's not right. They're just blatantly like trying to rip off the players, right?
Mm.
Whereas you know in the other situations, right? I think it's fair because the thing is, we've gotten very high quality updates for GTA Online for the past 4 years, right?
Mm.
And the game is like very much alive. Like people like are still playing it daily. Millions of players are still playing it daily 4 years after it's come out, and that's because of like the quality content that Rockstar has added, right?
Right. I see.
There's something that they said, this was just this week, the Doomsday Heist update that they added in the beginning of December, right? Up to now, the new Doomsday Heist, 25 million players have played it 4 years after the game came out, right? So,
Wow.
and this game, it's still in like the top 10 selling lists, like month after month after month as well,
Well, you know
right?
what? Like, I read recently that GTA 5 is like the most like highest sold video game of all time. Like, not
Yeah,
franchise, like video game.
video game. Yeah, I think it just beat like Tetris, like just recently or something.
Tetris.
Which is crazy, man. Tetris is a giant. How many platforms is Tetris on, right? Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? So it's pretty crazy. They've been so successful, and it's all because of the microtransactions and online, and the
Right.
way they've
Right.
implemented all of that. Um, the thing is, like I said, I have mixed feelings about it. In some cases, it's good. In some cases, they take it a little too far. I feel like the main reason that I'm fine for the most part with the way GTA does it is because they do what Naughty Dog doesn't. They respect the player's time, I think, right?
Hmm.
If you're good at the game in GTA Online, if you have a lot of good knowledge about the game, you know the most efficient ways to make money, and you have all of this, you're rewarded for it, right? You're rewarded for being the better player. As I mentioned in Uncharted 4, you could be the best player in Uncharted 4, but you're still going to get 10 relics for whatever match you play, right? There's no reward for winning. There's no penalty for losing. There's nothing like that for Uncharted 4's system, right?
Right. Right.
Um, for GTA, the thing is, I've never bought any shark cards or any sort of microtransactions in GTA, and I've always had enough money for every single update that came out, right? Because I regularly play the game, and I know like good and efficient ways to make money, not making it a boring grind, but having fun with it as well, right?
Right.
So because that's that's important. Like it's only a game is only as good as how much fun you're having, right? So I can have fun with the game, and I can also make a ton of money, which helps fuel the fun you're gonna have for all the future updates, right? And yeah, see, it's just like JD said. As long as you enjoy playing the game, it's never a grind, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that way, I feel like Rockstar has done a great job. And the thing is, right, as a result of these microtransactions, I feel like we've gotten phenomenal updates. Like, throughout the years, they've added things I never thought I'd ever see in a GTA game. Like, things like cunning stunts, the import-export update, this Doomsday heist. It's stuff that I never imagined would be possible in GTA Online, like back when I played it on PS3, right?
Right.
But then, see, that's the good side of it, right? But then there are some bad sides to it. Like, there's things they've added to the game that you can tell was just there to just blatantly rip off players, right? So the most recent one that like a lot of people were like pissed off about this was they added so there's a jet in the game, right? Okay, there's multiple jets, but in the base game, like back when it came out on PS3 and 360, this jet was there. It's called the Laser, right? It's the only jet that was in the game back then, right? But you could never purchase it online, right? Until I think it was about a couple months ago, right?
Right.
That's when you could purchase it. And here's the thing. They charge you $6 million for it, for that jet. This is a jet that's been in the base game. It's been in online. You can just go and steal it, right? And they just decided to add it as, something that you could purchase, right? And, you would think, okay, maybe if I purchase it, I can add some cool mods to it. I can add like bombs and like extra missiles, buff the damage on it, buff the armor, something like that. You can't do any of that. All you can do is paint it, right? So you can tell like something like that was just added just to make it into a money sink. Like the player gains nothing from that, right? But some people will do it because either they're ignorant or they like are not well informed about it. They don't know that they're wasting their money, or they're stupid. I don't know what else to say. But it's designed to just be a money sink, right? And there's a lot of things like Rockstar have added griefing tools, right? They've added tools like that players can use to piss off each other, right? And like the way it works is that there's certain missions that you can do in free mode to earn you money, but if another player destroys your product or whatever you're doing in that mission, right, you lose out on that, right? So that they use that like as a tool to frustrate the player, because you worked for so long, you accumulated all of this product for your business, and then you're gonna sell it, and then somebody comes and destroys it, and you just get frustrated, right? You're like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to put this time in again.
Yeah.
So let me just buy a shark card. Shark cards are the microtransactions for GTA Online, right?
Gotcha.
So things like that, right? Like, examples like that, that's where I can tell Rockstar, okay, that's not good. I don't like that stuff, right? But I feel like for the most part, I feel like more positive about GTA Online than any other game. It's the reason why I've been playing it for 4 years, like pretty much without taking a break. I've been playing it regularly since PS3, right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so it's never gone boring to me. The content they've always added has been great. So I mean, I want to say like GTA Online is like kind of halfway, like it's half good, but then half it's like it's not so good in terms of the microtransactions. But there's also, for any of you guys want to see on YouTube, there's a really great video about like kind of covering the stuff that I talked about. It's called the GTA 5 Anomaly: Why Rockstar Gets Away with what EA can't, right? And there's this guy, he gets into like a 20 to 30 minute discussion about the whole thing, the whole history of GTA, why Rockstar is able to get away with this while EA gets torn apart, right? that sort of thing. He raises some really good points there, right? So check that out if you're interested. But
Awesome.
yeah, I think I've like rambled on a little too long about Uncharted 4 and
No
Rockstar, but
worries. Yeah, it's all good.
okay. Hopefully that was enjoyable. You have anything else to add on microtransactions?
I mean, overall, I would just have to say, I mean, I just personally hate the whole thing. I think it's just
Yeah.
a pathetic excuse to get more money out of the players and from out
Mm-hmm.
of your game. And you know what? Like, I have to say to these guys, in terms of developers, because we've talked about this before. There came a point
Mm.
where I'm sure you and I have felt that like, oh man, Naughty Dog's like the best developer. I think they're the
Yeah.
best single player developers because they make really great stories. But I mean, you say that like in your opinion, Rockstar is like the best developer because they make great. I mean, great games is just it's like that's a given, obviously.
Mm.
But like they always cater to its core communities and fans and such. And like I mean, as you said, like you have the Doomsday heist that came out, and like what 25 million like players logged in to play it for
Yeah.
a game that's been out for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Um, but me personally, I think the I wouldn't say newest, but I think the next development team that has the potential to be the best is CD Projekt Red. Now they've made the
Mm.
Witcher games, and you know like for any of you who have bought The Witcher 3, like you open it up and then the first thing you see is like a little note from the company that says like dear gamer, I'm not going to read the note out, but it basically says like we appreciate you buying our game. We put all our time into it just to make this perfect experience for you. So thank you. So here's a list of things that we put into the regular game for you, which has included like free DLC, soundtrack. I mean, if you're into it,
Mm.
stickers, a map of the game, and of course, like announcing that all future like content will be available free to you. And
Mm.
there's like over 15 pieces of like downloadable content that was made free, and then you had the two expansions. And then when the whole EA debacle came about. CD Projekt Red came out and fired some shots and said, "Yeah, our game, Cyberpunk 2077, I think they're basically
Mm.
saying, yeah, like we're not gonna have any
Yeah.
microtransactions like within our game." So I was like,
Mm.
man, like hats off to these guys.
Yeah.
They're and just quick side note, like Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and just I mean the company altogether, it's a fantastic company. They've crafted such a great game. I feel that CD Projekt Red really focuses on the players versus just making money. But yeah, that's just about all I have to add to the microtransactions.
See, the thing is, okay, I just want to say something is because you mentioned how we used to say Naughty Dog is the best developer and everything, right? Um, yeah, it's. I feel like it's with Uncharted 4.
Oh,
Uncharted 4 multiplayer is where that sort of. I mean, I would call it like the downfall of Naughty Dog. Um,
right.
right? It's like I don't think I've ever felt that way about any of their previous games as I did about Uncharted 4 multiplayer, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's like I mean, in some ways I get it because they're a smaller studio. They can't. It's not financially beneficial for them to be focusing on Uncharted 4 multiplayer and that kind of thing, but it's and they've had so many development issues throughout Uncharted 4, and with Amy Hennig leaving, and they had to scrap some of that work, and then they had to bring in a new game director, new creative director, and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the game had so many like it had such a rough development cycle,
Yeah.
and by the end of it, it was a great game, right? It's just even the multiplayer, it was great, and it's still great. It's just it's very disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Because we expected so much better, right? Because it's Naughty Dog, and like Naughty Dog is known for their single players, as you said, right? But I think
Yeah.
they make
Mm.
fantastic multiplayers as well. Like they're really, really good at multiplayers as well. It's the reason why we play their multiplayers for so long, right? Because they're really good.
I'm sure you as well as everybody in the chat who can agree, well not can agree, but who like oh yeah, I guess yeah, can agree that The Last of Us multiplayer is probably the best multiplayer that Naughty Dog's put out. I mean, two
Mm,
was amazing, but Last of Us multiplayer is fantastic.
mm,
Despite it not having like many gameplay modes. I mean, because it's competitive at the end of the day. It's
yeah.
competitive based. But I find it to be very fun.
See, the thing is, like I feel like the reason why a lot of people feel that way, like just what you just described right now, is because Naughty Dog is so good at polishing the mechanics of their game so well.
Yeah.
Like, the movement of their games feels so smooth, the shooting feels so smooth, and just the animations, the audio, visuals, everything just feels so good, right? When you play it. And I think because of that, right? Like, for a lot of the other shortcomings of the games, we don't mind it as much, right? But like what you said with with Last of Us multiplayer, right? I feel like it was a little more excusable having less game modes available and stuff because that was a new IP, right?
Right.
That was the very first thing, right? And it launched
Yeah.
with Supply Raid and Survivors, and that was it, right?
Yeah. And even Naughty Dog admitted that like it was
Yeah.
literally a last minute thing.
Yeah.
like didn't they drop the multiplayer like trailer like a month before the game's release? I know
Yeah,
it was
they
like
did.
really close to the
Yeah,
game
yeah,
release.
they did. Um, but I mean, like they did a great job with that, right? And the thing is, right? Like it was okay for Last of Us, but it was not okay for Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 launched with I think 3 game modes. It launched with TDM, Command, and Plunder, right? And that was not excusable because that's the fourth game. That's the third multiplayer for that franchise, right?
Right.
Uncharted 3 had like freaking 12 game modes, man. Like, and then this had
Yeah.
3. It was, And JD said Uncharted 3 multiplayer wasn't really praised by many. Yeah, see, that's the. I feel like that's like overall kind of a thing for Naughty Dog multiplayers. A lot of people don't praise their multiplayers enough. It's very, very underpraised, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't even know their games have multiplayer. Like, I've heard so many people say it. The Last of Us has multiplayer, really? Like they never knew about that, and it's so good, right? Like it's something
Like
that's so good, and they didn't get to play it. Same with Uncharted 2 and 3, right?
yeah. Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
if I may say, I I really enjoyed Uncharted 3 multiplayer. If I had to say which multiplayer game in recent memory that I probably put a lot of my time into, I'd probably say, I mean, Uncharted 2. Not even like Uncharted 3 definitely surpassed my time on Uncharted 2, and it was quite a
yeah,
lot.
mm,
Uncharted 3 was really fun, and I really liked the whole setup of the multiplayer. The
yeah,
one thing that I did not like was the power play. Not the yeah, like okay, you got kickbacks. You had a couple of cheap kickbacks. You had some like power weapons that were
yeah,
just all over the map. Power plays, like basically like the game catered to noobs. As Broken
hmm,
Games HD said
yeah.
in his little rant. But like like you get over it. As long as you. I mean, I guess the way I see it, if you can't beat them, join them.
I hate you.
So.
Uh, no,
Yeah.
but see, the thing is, right? That game was heavily unbalanced, but it was so much fun. Uncharted 3, right? Like it was so much fun. We put so much time into it, right?
Yeah,
Despite how
yeah,
unbalanced it was, despite all of the frustrations you get from like all of these like cheap kickbacks, the blind fire and power plays, all that kind of stuff. There was so much frustration with it, but it was also so much fun, right? I feel like
yeah.
that's been a recurring issue in a lot of Naughty Dog's games, right?
Mhm.
They've always had balance issues, but they've always been so much fun, right?
Like even sorry, and even just one quick thing to add, like in terms of the community and updates, Uncharted 3 was always updated. And I think you were saying this at some point that like every week they had like some new lab arrangement.
Yeah, they did. Oh
That was
man,
pretty cool.
like that was great. It was when was this? This was 2012 and leading into 2013 as well.
Yeah.
Um, See, they had like they used to have a blog on Naughty Dog's website, right? And they used to update it weekly, saying, "Oh, hey, this new like you know what it was for Uncharted 3? It was like every week we got either a new lab map or a new lab game mode variation. So it was like
Hmm.
it would be like what was it? The shotgun and the shoot, I don't remember now. Shotgun and Mag 5, that was like one combination. Then you had T-Bolt and Pistole, like those kinds of combinations,
Yeah.
right? It would
My
you get
favorite.
sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Go ahead. I was just gonna say like my favorite variation to play was the like grenade dodgeball, I guess.
Yeah, like they even gave us something like that. Oh, like it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, right? Like it was there
Yeah.
was so much they mixed it up so much, right? They so you either got one of those or you got a new lab map, right? So there was always something
Right.
new to look forward to every Tuesday on Uncharted 3 multiplayer,
Yeah.
right? So Uncharted 4 got none of that support, right? It got
Yeah.
nothing like that, which
I
is
just sorry.
yeah, it was like that was like something that was like just very disappointing. And before I continue, I guess we've actually transitioned into the second major topic, which is gamers' expectations. Um, so we'll first talk about Uncharted 4 then. Uh, yeah. So the thing is, right? Like Uncharted 4 got none of that, and see, this is something that's like, and JD's just mentioned this too. He says that Uncharted 3 was messy, but it was fun. But the best way he could put Uncharted 4 is that it's so polished, but it's boring, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, right? Like all the crazy chaos in Uncharted 3 led to a lot of fun, right? Now, Uncharted 4 is the most balanced Uncharted has ever been. It's the most balanced of any of Naughty Dog's multiplayers, right? It's
Mm.
very, very well balanced. It's very, it could be very competitive, and all sorts of things, right? But the thing is, right? It's because like they haven't supported it enough. It just got boring, right?
Yeah.
Like the gunplay, the movement, and everything is like some of the best I've ever played in any video game, right?
Yeah.
But it's just they haven't been updating it. They haven't shown it that kind of support. We haven't gotten like it takes months to get a new map, right? Which is just
Yeah.
quickly forgotten about. All sorts of things like that, right?
Oh yeah.
And I feel like for me, the the biggest problem I've had with Uncharted 4 is that lack of support, right?
Yes.
It's just like the game could have been so much more, right? If that game got like even half the love that Uncharted 3 got, like it would have been so much better. I would still be playing it like very regularly to this day. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
I stopped regularly playing it back in, I want to say like April, May, something like that. Uh like and now it's like once in a while, very rare occurrence, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Oh yeah.
it's I mean it's just a shame really, like the way it's kind of gone. And because we had like so many expectations for it, right? Like Uncharted 3's lab maps and stuff were probably created as like tests for Uncharted 4 maps, right?
Mhm.
But you notice those Uncharted 3 lab maps, we didn't get anything like that in Uncharted 4. So what was the point of any of that? Like they had like I think it was like lab map 11. It was huge, man. Like it was like bigger than any Uncharted 3 map that was there. So we were thinking, hey, maybe we're gonna get something like this. Maybe this is like a test for something they want to do in Uncharted 4, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see any of that, right? And it's just they pretty much like what Naughty Dog have done like to like now, right? They basically just like they don't care. They've abandoned the game. Uh, I'm I'm like 99% sure that game's getting no more updates, nothing at all, right?
Yeah.
Because they've stopped communicating completely. It's been when did the game's last update, like last substantial update, was April, I think. April or June,
Wow.
something like that.
Wow.
That's when they added like a couple of new guns. They added classic mode as a full-on mode and everything, right? So, yeah, I don't think that game's gonna get anything else, right? And like recently, something they did was with Uncharted 4's ranked. So what they did was ranked rewards used to be exclusive, and they were really hard to get in the early seasons of ranked. Like you have no idea. Like season 1 and 2 were like the hardest items to get because like it was so competitive. It was really sweaty. The rule set for ranked was the points rule set made it so difficult. Like if you won a match, you got 10 points, but if you lost 40, something like that,
Oh
right?
man.
So it was such a tough grind, right? And like they like those ranked rewards were kind of your trophies to show off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying that you're one of the best, right? And you got that, right? Like if you saw like at those points, if you saw a player in your lobby wearing that, they're on the other team, right? Like you knew like, okay, this is going to be a tough match, something like that,
Yeah.
right? Now what they've done is, see, before they said all of these rewards were exclusive for that ranked season, right? So if you didn't participate in that ranked season, you're not getting that reward. What they did, I think this was last month, is they've just recycled the old ranked rewards. So they're repeating it.
No.
That ranked hat that we worked so hard for, somebody can get it now. And the ranked rule set, point rule set now is so much like more lenient, right?
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. Any average player can get to master rank without too much difficulty
Mm-hmm.
now, right? So it's like the meaning of those past accomplishments have just been thrown away, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And yeah, it's like JD said, it's like a slap in the face to anybody.
Right.
Like it's a slap in the face to anybody that put in the time back then, right? And like those items were what made like like a lot of players like unique, right?
Yeah.
Right, because it was something that was really really difficult to get, right? And yeah.
Like just a quick side note, like to exactly what you had just said into JD's comment.
Hmm.
I felt exactly like in recent memory, like I felt the exact same way about Destiny 1. When
Hmm.
they made the Galahorn, like back like before the Taken King or
Oh
one of the
yeah.
huge expansions, back when like all of a sudden Zur had it and he was
Yeah.
selling it, and that the weapon drop for that was like a 0.5% like chance that you would ever get
Yeah.
it randomly,
It was
and then
extremely
Zur was
rare.
just selling it all of a sudden, and then
Hmm.
everybody had it.
Yeah.
That just grinded my gears, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But
Yeah. I mean, see, for me, like, that is something a little more based off of RNG. So it's, I mean, like some people could have gotten lucky and gotten that as their very first exotic as well, right? So,
yeah,
I mean, because it's RNG based, it's And the thing is, when Zur sold it, it was also at the end of, it was right before the Taken King came out, and that weapon didn't carry
true,
over into Taken King, right? So
right,
it's like, okay,
right.
you got it at the end and you can have fun with it for a week. But it's also like, it's like one of these trophies that a person has, right? It's like, hey, I've played this much Destiny and I have this thing to show for it, right?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, right? And we'll get into Destiny 2 next after Uncharted. But I mean, I think like pretty much said all I want to about Uncharted 4. It's just there's so many things they've done to like in terms of microtransactions to frustrate the player, in terms of like the whole ranked rewards thing, no support, no updates for it, and it's just like it feels like you compare this to how they handled Uncharted 3's multiplayer, right? And it's like they're just like a shell of their former self, the multiplayer team,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
right? So it's I don't know. It's just so disappointing, right, to see that, and especially because this is the last Uncharted game, right? So
Yeah.
there isn't another Uncharted multiplayer to redeem themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like okay, if Uncharted 3's multiplayer was like screwed up, we'll be like okay, Uncharted 4, you know, maybe that like that can improve upon it, right? But like this just sucks. This is the last Uncharted multiplayer we're getting, and this is going to be the last sort of I guess impression that Uncharted multiplayer leaves. Like you always want to end a franchise on the highest note possible, right? It should be
Yeah.
at its best. Like JD said, the last one should always be the best, right? And I feel like in single player they did that because I mean I've said this before, but my favorite Uncharted single player is Uncharted 4. I think it just barely beats Uncharted 2 for me.
Huh.
So I think they've done a great job with that, and I feel like even if I feel like for a lot of the people that say Uncharted 2 is their favorite, for most of them they say Uncharted 4 is the next best one, right? So
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job with the single player, but the multiplayer, they've done well in some areas, they've done horribly in others, right? And it's just a shame that that's how it is, and because of that, that's made me less excited for The Last of Us 2. Last of Us 2 multiplayer, but because the multiplayer is such a big part of it that I had been looking forward to playing for so long. Just the overall game I have less excitement for, right? Like a new Last of Us trailer is shown a bit like before I'd probably be like, "Oh, I'm so excited. I want to watch this. I want to watch this like 20 times over." But now it's just like, okay, I'll check it out. That kind of thing, right? So yeah, man. I mean, it's just so disappointing.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else to say about Naughty Dog, Uncharted, anything like that?
I mean, yeah, just one quick thing. I'd like to think that, because considering that all of Naughty Dog's resources and manpower is being put into the development of The Last of Us Part 2, I'd like to think that, especially when it comes to the multiplayer side, they're focusing on The Last of Us Part 2 and improving from The Last of Us Part 1's multiplayer, I guess. And the main thing that the community has asked for, from what I've witnessed for The Last of Us multiplayer, was a co-op mode. Like some horde mode or something co-op related, because the game was mainly competitive, right? Which is nothing wrong with it. As I said, like I really like the competitive system. I like the Last of Us multiplayer.
Yeah,
but
it's just a horror. Sorry, go on.
yeah, exactly. And it just kind of got boring.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to just do competitive. Like even with Uncharted 4, like you have like, I don't know how many game modes is now, but you have like most of the game modes are competitive. But then when they rolled out the co-op like mode, it was actually really fun. It was nice to have something to jump back and forth between. But in my opinion, the co-op was it could have been a lot better in Uncharted 4 as well. But I'd like to think, generally, I'd like to think that The Last of Us Part 2's multiplayer is going to be, it's going to be good.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll for The Last of Us 2 in some future episode, like closer to the release date, we'll talk about expectations for both single player and multiplayer for Last of Us 2.
Sure.
Like, what we're expecting, what we're hoping Naughty Dog improves on, what they do. Like, we'll get more into the details on that in the future. But for now, we're still talking about gamers' expectations and disappointments.
All right.
I have to say, in the past year, the most disappointing game for me is Destiny 2. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. I like the game. It's a good game, but it's disappointing. Look at this guy. This guy lost it.
I'm laughing because the last I talked to you, you're saying like, oh man,
It is
this
great.
is amazing.
It is amazing.
It's so much better than the first one, but I just felt
It
like
is.
I didn't expect you to.
But
say
it has
that.
disappointments.
Even when just before the podcast started, we were coming up with our list.
Yeah.
And then, gamers' expectations, and then over-promising. You threw in Destiny 2. I was like, why would you throw in Destiny?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a lot to say about this as well, because I'm not saying that Destiny 2 is a bad game. I think it's a good game. I definitely put in a lot of time into it, and I got my money's worth out of it, I think, right? So it's a good game, but it's got quite a few different flaws to it. Oh man, where do we start? It's like Okay, for one thing, right? A lot of people haven't liked is they've casualized the game so much. Um, the thing is, like, th- okay, so one of the biggest goals for a Destiny 2, for your character on Destiny 2 is to reach max light, right?
Right.
It's way easier to do that in Destiny 2 than it is to Destiny 1. Like there's a lot of situations where the game just throws loot at you, right? There's even systems in place for like if your clan does something, right? You don't even have to play the game. You'll get rewarded for it, right? Like they have stuff like that, right? And a lot of this just it casualizes the game so much, and it decreases the length of playtime
Yeah.
for say the more hardcore player, right? And it's just there's less things to do in the game overall, right? And like you know th- there hasn't been a good focus on the end game, which is what matters to the hardcore player. Instead, they focused on the casual player, what the casual player cares about, right? And because of that, there have been some good improvements. Like the story is like orders of magnitude better than the first one. Like like the story was really good. The cutscenes, the voice acting, everything's spot on. Like all of the action sequences, everything was great with Destiny 2, right? But
Mhm.
it's had other issues. The end game is a big one, right? In Crucible, they've made changes so that like the more casual player, um, the more casual player can compete better against somebody that's a lot more skilled. Like one of the things they've done is they've made aerial combat like much more difficult. They've decreased the accuracy of your guns when you shoot them in the air by a lot, like across the board. The reason for that is because the more skilled players are really good with controlling their movement in the air, right? So they do that. They confuse, the new player that's just standing on the floor, right? They try to confuse the player and get the jump on them and outplay them, right? With these types of aerial maneuvers. But they've toned all that down so that the casual player can do better, right?
I see. I see.
And like just overall they've toned down the damage on a lot of guns, on the primary guns in particular, because before, right, in Destiny 1, if you flank the team, right, you'll have enough time to kill all of them for the most part. If you use like your grenade and then you use your gun, all that stuff, you can get quite a few kills off of that. Destiny 2, if you flank someone, right, before you even kill the first guy, right, if all three of them turn around and shoot you, you're dead. Like you're not gonna get anything from that. So you're not rewarded for flanking in a competitive multiplayer, right? It's like that
Yeah.
type of thing, right? And it's just so heavily focused on team shooting, right? And you feel like you're getting killed so much in situations where you probably wouldn't have in Destiny 1. You would have had enough tools and like enough options to outplay the opponent and that kind of stuff, right? And
Right. Right.
see, I mentioned this with Uncharted as well because it was something like that JD said, and we can relate back to this, is that Uncharted 3 was a mess in terms of balance, um, but as a result of that, it was also a lot of fun. That chaos was really fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uncharted 4 is way more balanced, but like the gameplay has gotten boring, right?
Mm.
It's the same case for Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is a far more balanced game than Destiny 1 was. It's very competitively balanced in everything, right? But there's not enough. They've watered down so many mechanics that a lot of players in Destiny 1 took a lot of time to learn and perfect so that they can, outplay opponents, right? And you can't use that in Destiny 2, right? You can't use any of those skills. Like players are in a much more equal ground. Aiming a gun in Destiny 2 isn't very hard.
Mm.
Destiny overall has always had a heavy amount of aim assist, right? So, it's not that difficult to just, stay behind a corner and shoot somebody in Destiny 2, right? Like, you don't have enough movement options and things like that. And, I feel like that's something that's really frustrated a lot of players. And a lot of streamers as well have, they've switched off of Destiny 2. Like, people that were well known in the Destiny community, they've strayed away from Destiny 2. It's because, like, all of these, any sort of skills that they develop, they can't use those to outplay, opponents. And people that are less skilled than them can compete with them much more easily without putting as much time into the game, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that kind of thing is frustrating, right? I mean, it's kind of like what I've always said about blind fire. It's like whatever aiming skills you get in Uncharted multiplayer games, right? It doesn't matter because some guy can just run, just blind fire you, and that's it. It's over, right? Because a blind fire has a lock on, right? Like it's stuff like that, right? It's like when the player can't use the skills and knowledge that they developed from playing the game for so long, and like that's just frustrating, right?
That's
Like,
true.
like you want to be rewarded for putting that time into the game, right? It's just a recurring thing. Like even with the microtransactions, you want the developer to respect the player's time, right? And it's it's just it really sucks. And see, JD brings up a good question: is what's the fine line between balance and fun? That's the thing we don't quite know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at Uncharted games, maybe Uncharted 2 multiplayer before that whole health patch, that was like quite well balanced and it was a lot of fun, right? Something like that. I feel like you can't go too much onto one side, right? It's like a game should be balanced and but it should also respect the player's skills and time that they put into the game,
Right. Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's something that's very important. Um, you got anything else to say on? I know you haven't played Destiny 2, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I mean, I I purposely didn't buy Destiny 2. Like the only reason why I even had the first Destiny was because I mean I was interested in playing it, and a lot of people were for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I picked up the Destiny bundle for the PS4, like the white PS4 and everything, and
Destiny 1, right?
yeah, and they did the same thing for Destiny 2 this year. But
Yeah.
anyway, and I picked it up at the time, and then that was only really the only like multiplayer game that a lot of people could play on like next gen, especially like, around that time. Like Destiny was kind of a big deal. I had stopped playing Destiny because again, like I just felt that the game had come to a point where it's just an unnecessary grind, and whatever like stuff, like whatever gear you got, like you can have people that work their butt off and never get it, and then one day it just becomes available to like anybody. But then to justify, like you said, well, for instance, the not the Goliathan,
Gallahorn.
the
Goliath.
Gallahorn, right?
Yeah.
The Gallahorn, like it was available like right before the Taken King came out, which by the time the Taken King came out, all your previous gear had almost become irrelevant, and I think I gave up on Destiny a little too early. But yeah, Destiny 2, like I played the trial, and to be honest, I just couldn't get into it. And I wish I can like fully understand to the extent from your experience like what you're talking about. But I just found it like ironic in general that you had that, not ironic, but I was surprised that you had that to say about Destiny 2. But it's interesting, really interesting.
Yeah, it's I mean, the thing is, right? The things that Destiny 2 does good, it does it really, really well, right? But the things that it does bad have a really a lasting impression, right? Like a lot of
Right.
people like have just gotten fed up with it as well, right? And like they've just stopped. Like JD said, he thinks he's decided to just part ways with Destiny's franchise as a whole. Sorry, one sec. Sorry about that. Yeah, a lot of people have decided to just completely part ways with it, right? Like how JD said, and that's something I mentioned was a lot of streamers, right? They've people that are well known for Destiny have kind of abandoned it as well as their main game for streaming.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the majority of them are playing like Fortnite and Overwatch and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas these were people that were well known for being Destiny streamers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's like you can see like how big of a problem it's gotten, and see, here's the thing. I know like Bungie is a very talented developer, right? And I know that they have the capabilities to fix the game, right? To make it what we've always wanted. The problem is it's gonna take a long time for that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's kind of how it was for Destiny One. Like Destiny One had a really rough launch. It was like, a lot of people see it has potential, but it took over a year for it to realize that potential, right? And like Destiny One only became like an amazing game after the Taken King came out, right? Which was a year after. Not to mention, we also have to pay for the DLC to get
Yeah.
the game we always wanted, right? So that's also another frustrating thing about Destiny, right? It's like, okay, well, a year from now, it ends up being a great game, but do I have to pay $40 now to access this great game that I wanted from the beginning, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's another frustrating thing. And see, like I bought the season pass for it, right? Which I regret now. But I mean, if they improve it along the way for that in that expansion pass, great, right? But if it's still not improved by the end of because that expansion pass is for the first two expansions. The first one has come out. It hasn't shown too many improvements. It's shown some. It's in the right direction, but it hasn't really gotten to the point that a lot of people have wanted it to be. So if the second expansion doesn't bring it to that state, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about that.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's just one of the most frustrating things. Because it's a game that has so much potential, right? And I feel like that's the reason why a lot of us gamers, we complain about these things, right? And we demand for it to be fixed because we know like it has the potential to be something amazing, right? Like it's like we're fans of these franchises and developers because we want it to succeed, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that because that's another thing, like in when it comes to gamer expectations, right? One of the most common one of the most common uh, arguments for the other side is that gamers are too entitled. They always say, if you don't like the game, don't play it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's always the argument, right? And while that is true, it has some truth to it. If you don't like a game, why are you spending your time on it, right? Well, it's because we know that it has potential and we want it to succeed, right? Um, there was this really good quote I read on this. It was on Reddit, right? And like someone asked to explain why people still are so passionate about these games if they're not doing well and if their developers are disappointing them, right? Why do they still continue complaining about it instead of going and playing other games, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, he came up with this really good analogy, right? He said, okay, well, if your favorite sports team is losing the season, are you just gonna abandon it and go root for another team? You're not,
Right.
right? Because it's your team, that's your favorite team, right? And they can do better, and you'll still continue to support them, right? It's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? These are our favorite developers. We know they have the potential, right? We know they make great games. We know they're really good at what they do, right? And we want them to realize those potentials, right? I mean, I feel like when it comes down to it, that's what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I just, with that being said, like, I don't know if we already merged into gamers' expectations. Have we? Is
We
that the
have.
topic now?
Yeah, we have. I mentioned
Oh,
that.
okay. um, I find that um, games developed these days aren't necessarily like they're not for the core players essentially. Like I find developers aren't necessarily focusing on their communities and the players, and like they don't respect, as you said before, the players' skill and the time that they put into playing these games.
Yeah.
So all that stuff that you just mentioned, like, and they need to the focus on the little things like this. I find if they focus on the little things, that's what paints the bigger picture
Mm,
versus them focusing on the big things and they miss all of the important stuff, you
mm.
know? And like with that being said, um, well, before I move on, like, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, are you gonna move on to still gamers' expectations or something
Yeah,
else?
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, go on, go
exactly.
on.
Like, I think the biggest thing when it comes to gamers' expectations for me is look at a game for a new trailer, right? Let's use Ubisoft, because
Yeah.
they're really notorious for this. But
Hmm.
a new trailer drops and it looks fantastic. The game
Yeah.
looks amazing from the looks of the trailer. Like it looks action packed, visuals are on point, story is really interesting, and you get the game, and like not only in a visual perspective is it like kind of the game gets a downgrade, but it's nothing as described and shown in the trailers. And it's like I just can't help but feel developers are too focused and too up in their heads in regards to making their games as pretty as possible, and then when the final version comes out, it just doesn't deliver.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, see, like, let me just quickly address something JD said. Was another thing that
Uh-huh.
disappointed him in Destiny 2 was that every different gun had the same the same gun. If it dropped, multiple times, it always was the same thing, right?
Yeah.
They've slowly started fixing this as well. They introduced the Masterworks weapons. So they're going in the right direction, which is why I said I have faith in Bungie. It's just I don't want to pay another like $40 before I see the game that I wanted, right?
Right.
So, but other than that, I know Bungie will fix it, right? So yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I agree with that issue that JD has, and I feel like they're going towards the right direction in
yeah.
fixing it. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, another thing for Destiny 2 is, oh man, I forgot to mention this, microtransactions in Destiny 2. It's a
Oh
huge
yeah.
problem with that, because that game, right? It's paid expansions and everything like that, right? And like they still push the microtransactions so much. Like there's so many there when it comes to ships, sparrows, and ghosts in Destiny 2, they're all in Eververse. Eververse is their microtransaction store.
Okay.
Everything is there. There's nothing that you can find in game. Like all of that was just all of the coolest looking stuff has been pushed to that,
I
right?
see. I
And
see.
this is a game that we paid, $60 to $80 for the base game, and then for each DLC, we're paying, for the smaller expansions, it's I think like $20 to $25, and then the bigger ones are gonna be like 40 to 50, right? So we're putting so much money into this game, and they're still focusing on microtransactions too, right? Like
Yeah.
this is what I said at the start was like people are a little more forgiving and accepting of microtransactions for a free to play game. But
Yeah.
when it's a game that you've paid for, for this experience, right? And they're still trying to just screw over the consumer, right? Like that kind of shit is what we don't like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's and I mean, I guess a lot of people feel like that's from the publisher side, right? You can definitely tell like Activision is the publisher for Destiny. What else are they the publisher for Call of Duty? So we know that they're all about the money. They don't really care otherwise, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's one of those unfortunate kinds of things, I guess, right, that we have to deal with. And
Yeah.
but you know, I mean, it's like EA got torn apart, so gamers do have a voice, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Gamers
Oh
do
yeah.
have a voice, and they can make changes, right? So you know, if your favorite game, you're not happy with it, voice your concerns. Maybe other people feel the same way, and you know, maybe when the maybe everybody will be up in arms about it all together, and you know, when the developer responds, they get the worst, or sorry, the most downvoted comment of all time,
Yeah.
right? Like just like with the EA, right?
Right.
So you know, it's always a thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, just overall, it's just you know, there's been disappointments in games. You know, a lot of the games we love and stuff, but yeah, as I was saying, was like that analogy that guy said. Like, you know, you don't if your favorite sports team is losing, you don't abandon it and just go root for another team, right? Because you want to see it succeed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and you know, that's how it is for a lot of gamers, right? It's only our favorite games and our favorite developers that we're that passionate about seeing improvements on,
Right.
right?
Right.
If a game sucks, we're just gonna say it sucks and then we're just gonna leave it, right?
Yeah.
If like, you know, we don't care about that game, if it's terrible, like if you play a garbage game like The Order 1886, that game's garbage. I don't care. I don't want to see it improved. I don't care at all. Like that game's trash. I'm done with it, right? Like that kind of thing, right? You know. I mean, sorry, I just really hate that game.
Yeah. No worries.
But
No worries.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, you know, I feel like a lot of people. I mean, we've all played crappy games at some point, right? You know, and like if a game is just completely crap and you don't think it has that potential, it's just whatever. We don't care about it.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, JD says he's surprised. They even make campaigns for Call of Duty games anymore. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say the last great COD campaign
hmm,
was Modern Warfare 2. That game was so good, and I think
hmm,
just recently I was just talking to my cousin, and I was just telling him that it's kind of a shame that um, like games
hmm,
these days, like multiplayer specifically, like
yeah,
because I find a lot of multiplayer games these days aren't necessarily fun. Like
hmm,
there was a variety of multiplayer games back then compared to today, where you can just kind of hop onto and just really grind the heck out of it and really enjoy it. And like
hmm,
just the whole system of multiplayer was just so awesome during the PS3 and
hmm,
360 era. And Modern Warfare 2, I mean, from a multiplayer side, like yeah, I think it was one of the most like played, if not the most played multiplayer like game. But
yeah,
from a campaign wise, like man, like Modern Warfare 2 is fantastic.
hmm,
As a matter of fact, like it was I had played Black Ops and the other Modern Warfare games, but Modern Warfare 2 is the only game that like I platinumed. Like I enjoyed it so much.
hmm.
And JD threw in a comment like actually Division is a great example here. They improved the game but way too late. If I lost interest in the base game, it was lacking content. I don't have any desire to go back despite improvements.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a time frame where you gotta improve it to keep the interest of people, right? It's
Yep.
just like you said. Like I know Destiny 2 will eventually become an amazing game because Bungie is such a talented studio.
Mm,
It's just a matter of will it be too late or not, right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that kind of thing, right? So yeah, I mean, I feel like for the most part, gamers' disappointments and expectations are not unrealistic. A lot of people say, you know, gamers are entitled. Yeah, like don't play the game if you don't like it, but I don't
Excuse me.
believe so. In some cases, I feel like yeah, it's too much. Like you know, if it's different depending on every situation. I feel right.
Yeah.
Like Yeah, I mean, like, with Uncharted 2, like, there's a lot of complaints I've had, right? But it's like some people are like still complaining about how they don't like revives. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that's a little unwarranted. It's like, okay, it's a different mechanic, and they added classic mode for those people. But in my personal opinion, I think classic mode is more boring. Like, it's not as
Really?
fun. Yeah, it's not as fun.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's all personal preference. Some people might like it, but you have the options there, I guess.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I mean, I believe I mentioned a bit about this in that first, our first Get Wrecked podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about how like I'm fine with those mechanics changes, right? But yeah, I mean, it's yeah for the most part, I feel like gamers like complaints are completely valid, and I feel like you shouldn't silence the gamer that tries to make improvements to the game. And
Yeah.
now here's another thing. There's a right way and a wrong way of criticizing a game. Like there's some people that'll be like, "Oh, this game sucks. I hate you. I hate this developer, this and that." They don't offer any improvements, right? That's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Like you got to say, why do you want to see this changed? What do you want from this game? Why was it done better in this game or this prequel or something like that, right? Sorry, not prequel, the previous game. Like why was it better in
Right.
the previous game? Stuff like that. You have to offer criticism, constructive criticism on how a game can be improved, right?
For sure. Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, there's a couple other games that we did want to mention, but I think we'll leave those for another episode.
Mm-hmm.
And JD said people don't like change. Had a problem with revives when it was announced, but got used to it. Yeah, like it's a new
Yeah.
mechanic, right? It's a new mechanic that you just got used to. And I feel like people to this day, if they're still complaining about revives, it's like, come on, man. Like you
Yeah.
gotta try it out.
Yeah.
You gotta learn it. You gotta do like, and okay, even if you still hate it, there's classic mode for you, right?
Yeah.
Gamer says complaining and criticism are two different things. You can say something's bad, but back up your statement with thought and reasoning. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
like some people just say like they just cuss at the developer, that kind of thing. That doesn't offer anything, right? It doesn't help anybody. Okay, I get you're frustrated, but tell them how you want it changed. Tell them how
Yeah.
it needs to be
Logically.
improved, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, there's a couple other games we wanted to mention, but I think we'll move that to another episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what are we at? We're past the 1.5 hour mark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just about. So
Just about. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean that's what I want to do for these podcast episodes. I want to keep them between 1 hour to 1.5 hours max.
Right.
Like before we were gonna go for like 2 hours and stuff. I feel like it's a bit too much for someone to watch, either on stream or on YouTube.
Mm.
And it's quite a lot for us to cover as well in one episode. So we'll move it to the next one. JD asks, is this weekly? I don't think it's gonna be weekly. My initial plan was maybe monthly.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sound? Monthly, good, bad?
Personally, personal preference, I would like to do this weekly.
You would like to do it weekly. It
Yeah.
the only thing is, I mean, okay, for one thing, it's finding the time
Oh
to
yeah.
do it. But another thing is having enough topics to talk about. That's also another thing. That's why I was
Yeah.
thinking monthly. So I mean, for now, we'll keep it monthly. But if it's possible, we could do it more frequently.
Okay.
Bi-weekly is a good suggestion, like these guys are saying. Um, I guess we'll see. It depends if we have enough topics to talk about. Maybe the next one will be in 2 weeks from now. But
Yeah.
if not, it'll be next month. Because I'm sure there'll be a lot more gaming news and topics that are, that a lot of people are, currently talking about in the gaming world. So, more stuff for us to cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is going to conclude the first episode of a podcast remastered. So if you are watching this on YouTube, this will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. I will have links in the description to ZeesTwitchin's his Twitch, his YouTube page, and so if anyone wants to contact you, where can they reach you at?
Mainly for now, you could just hit me up on my Twitch channel's dashboard. There's like the community pages or like the channel page they started doing. For now, that's like the only place really, like that and YouTube. No social media, unfortunately, but yeah, just twitch.tv/ZeesTwitchin.
And I mean, you can take a minute to just say what your Twitch channel is focusing on and all that kind of stuff. Just for these guys that are here, if they want to check out your channel.
In the beginning, I was playing a lot of Fortnite, but I decided what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna play like whatever I want to play, and that's gonna be like, because I love like collecting trophies and such. So my channel is gonna really be focusing on a lot of single player experiences for the most part. There will be some times where like if I'm playing with friends, I might as well just stream it. But right now I'm currently playing Horizon Zero Dawn. Next game I'm not sure. It's gonna be a while because it is a pretty massive game. But yeah, just focusing on single player games overall.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, so here is his Twitch channel. Go give him a follow. Go give him a follow. We're going to be doing this podcast together. He's always going to be my co-host. Every episode will feature both of us. And JD suggested some special guests from time to time. Yeah, I mean, if whatever the topic that we have in mind, if there's someone that can add a lot to, we'll definitely feature someone. Yeah, so that is gonna be the first episode. This will be uploaded to YouTube. Next episode will be like I said, either 2 weeks or a month from now, depending on what topics we have available. But that's gonna be it, guys. I may stream a bit later on again as well, playing some games, either PS4 or PC, whatever. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Take care.